of your Zoom screen. In the bottom of your Zoom screen, you'll find the little chat button that if you open up, opens a small white screen. That is where we're asking people to type in questions so that we can present them to the directors and to the staff on hand today. Along with the video, you can also protect your online privacy by changing your name using this little square in your Zoom icon that has 3 dots in it. Just open that up and scan down the menu to rename, and maybe you select a first name or initials, whatever you feel okay with having on display. As you might have heard, the recording has started. We are recording this meeting and we will be posting it to the website. We do that so that people who weren't able to join us for this hour are able to follow up and watch and get the information when they're able to. And finally, our format today is starting with about 30 minutes for a presentation and update with the directors. And then the second half will be available for questions and answers from you. If you have submitted questions by email in advance, we will present them at that time. And as you might be able to see on the list here, we have a great group of staff on hand to be able to help answer any questions you have. So please feel free to bring forward anything that's on your mind so that we can get you the information that you need. I'm going to just turn off that screen now. And so with that, I will hand over the microphone to James for a bit of an introduction. Thanks again, everyone, for being here. James, over to you.
Thanks, Colleen. Just checking my audio is okay. That's good.
You sound great.
Well, thank you, everybody, for joining us today for this update with the CVRD and your electoral area directors. These sessions started in 2020 as a way to share information about services, projects, and initiatives within the CVRD's electoral areas, and to respond to any questions that the community might have. Before I begin, we want to acknowledge that we are working on the traditional and unceded territory of the Comox First Nation, and we're thankful for their ongoing work with us in many ways. Community updates are always valuable, and right now is a particularly opportune time to bring you up to date on what is happening in your communities. The CVRD Board of Directors recently approved its 2022 to 2026 financial plan or budget, confirming the plans ahead for many of the critical services that we all rely upon. We also have the upcoming local government election on the horizon in October of this year. In order to allow for an appropriate campaign period, this will be our final community update for 2022. And the May 2022 newsletter, which is currently online, is also the last newsletter for the year. As you could see in our introductions from Colleen, we have a number of staff here on hand to help answer questions about the topics that are part of the presentation or any other topics that might be of interest to you. So please feel free to ask any questions that you have here today in the chat box, and we'll be able to try to respond. So once again, thank you for taking the time to join us today, and let's get started. So I'm actually going to hand the microphone over to Electoral Area B Director Arzina Hamir. Director Hamir.
Thank you so much, James, and welcome everybody. I get to kick off this session with some really good news from the CVRD. It's a topic that's near and dear to my heart. So as you may know, the CVRD has an agricultural plan for the region with an aim to further the development of socially, culturally, environmentally, and economically sustainable farming. The plan made agricultural land use a significant priority in regional development planning and has led the CVRD into agricultural related projects. The plan, however, is old. It was completed in 2002, so now we're coming up to 20 years. So a lot has happened since then, and the plan is due for an update. So we are now working to modernize the Comox Valley Agricultural Plan. This summer will be spent evaluating the 20-year-old plan, taking stock of what's been accomplished and what has yet to be implemented. Upland Agricultural Consulting, led by Ione Smith, a professional agrologist, will provide specialized expertise in the process. An advisory committee will be assembled in the fall with major planning activities occurring through the winter and into 2023. The CVRD will also be supported with a new agricultural coordinator, Nikki Whitaker, who is also a professional agrologist, and has been hired for a 3-year contract to assist with communication and engagement with the farming community and agricultural stakeholders. Nikki will also help assist in advancing agriculture-related initiatives in which the CVRD is involved, including the update to the agricultural plan. So if local food production is of interest to you, we also have another great way for you to get involved. We have a food hub stewardship group, a volunteer committee that will work with the CVRD to explore and implement the food hub strategy. And we're still accepting applications. You can apply online, and we're going to share that link with you shortly. Now, specifically to Area B residents, I know many of you may be following really closely the work of the sewer conveyance project, because it does have impacts on Area B, especially in the Lazo area. So I have a few updates for you. The CBRD continues planning for the sewer conveyance project and hosted an update for residents in the Lazo area in February and also into March. The update included information about plans for the new route and in particular, the design for tunneling through Lazo Hill. The CBRD has also considered the feedback from the community and made improvements and design changes to address concerns, which included selecting a route through Lazo Hill that will allow for a gravity line instead of a pressurized line, which greatly reduces the risk, and providing a 20-meter buffer from all wells in the area. But perhaps the most critical and important for residents in the area is that the CVRD has approved a groundwater protection policy, confirming long-term and ongoing commitments for protection and response in case of a leak. This ensures that the commitments made now will be honored despite whoever is elected and whoever is on staff. The CVRD continues to keep Area B residents and me as the director informed in the process and plans to continue outreach work as they approach the start of construction, which will happen next year. We'll share the web address with you and you can visit it to follow for any updates. Now I'm going to hand it over to Director Grieve for some more updates.
I'm good to go. Thank you. Thank you, Director Hamir. As James mentioned in his introduction, the CVRD completed an important annual step last month in approving its financial plan. This year's total consolidated budget totals $189.9 million. Say it real fast. With 86.2 for operations and 103.6 for capital projects across all parts of the regional district. In mid-2020, during the peak COVID period, the board developed a Rethink Comox Valley COVID-19 plan in response that outlined specific renewal plans to be delivered through the pandemic and in these early stages of renewal. This budget is a step forward closer to the normal pre-pandemic service levels. Important to note that in regional districts, you only pay for the services you receive. The CVRD in 2022 delivers 102 services to the region. Each area has a different menu of services that they've signed up for. So property taxes vary based on what services you receive in the regional district and where your house actually is. The increase overall is approximately 3.78%. Check my notes. Okay, among the highlights for this year's budget are new services like the Denman and Hornby Island high-speed internet service, Saratoga Beach Community Mosquito Management Service, and the Puntledge North and Bain Sound community facilities. I'd like to thank anyone out there who participated in our financial planning process by providing comments or feedback. This is an important annual exercise and it takes a lot of thoughtful input to get to where we are right now. So as so far as Area C, I've got a lot of great things to tell you. I guess the most exciting news would be the impending opening tomorrow of the new Merville Fire Hall, located just before Williams Beach Road on Highway 19A North. This facility will provide rapid fire and emergency first responder service to the residents of Merville and Solnum Farnham fire districts. And it should also reduce insurance premiums for many of the homeowners. The other good news is the recent public approval of the Mount Washington Resort Community Fire Protection Borrowing Bylaw. This will now enable the purchase of equipment and apparatus to allow the construction next year of a fire hall on Mount Washington, long awaited and most needed. And as I mentioned before, one of our other new services is the establishment this year of the Puntledge North Community Support Service. This service will provide stable and predictable funding for Area C's 4 community halls. With help from the Provincial Restart Funding Program, $45,000 will be granted to the Halby Hall and the Merville Community Halls to assist in some major capital upgrades. Completion of the Coastal Flood Adaptation Study, plus ongoing work on the Saratoga Miracle Beach Master Drainage Plan will form critical background data for residents in their neighborhoods as we try to mitigate floods and sea level rise. If there's room for one more, I'd like to mention the parks and greenways. All I can say is that we're making steady progress, and we have been working to secure the one spot trail built on the old Comox logging railroad grade. This corridor runs from Courtney to Oyster River and will be an invaluable legacy. Will ensure recreation and accurate transportation for years to come. Thank you. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to my cohort, Daniel Arbor. Director Arbor.
Thanks, Director Grieve. I'll just pull up my sheet here just a second. So my regional update will be around recreational services. For the last 3 years, I've had the privilege to be the chair of the Rec Commission. And it's an important part of what the CVRD provides to all residents in the Comox Valley. Everyone contributes to rec services, including maintenance and operation of the aquatic center, the sports center, the curling club, fields, and related programming. I know there's always a lot going on in these centers and related activities, and in 2022 we'll be just as active as we work with the municipalities to assess current use and make plans for the future of our facilities. I'll just tell you a little bit about those reviews. The aquatic review, with support from the City of Courtney, CVRD is drafting an aquatic strategy to help guide decision-making in the years to come. We recognize that a number of Valley's aquatic facilities are aging and that long-term planning is required to meet current and future needs. Over the last months, we've engaged with the community about their activities and have completed facility condition assessments, which are really useful to make decisions as a board. A draft strategy will be ready in the early summer of 2022 for consideration. In regards to the arenas and ice allocation, the CVRD is seeing increasing demand for ice by both current and new users. So we have pretty full facilities for that. In order to better understand the interest for adult ice use and get feedback on how demand can be addressed, an engagement process was undertaken in February and March. This process looked only at adult ice use, as youth programming is already prioritized through the current ice allocation policy. Input is now being summarized into a report for the future planning purposes of the CVRD and the Recreation Commission. Lastly, another one we just started is regards to field use. And I would mention that on the Rec Commission, one of the unique and cool things is that the school district has a seat on the Rec Commission. It's not just local government officials. So for field use, a review of the Comox Valley field is currently underway. The CVRD is inviting the community's feedback on sports field use in the Valley, including rural fields at schools and otherwise. So we're trying to help optimize field time and ensure diverse programming opportunities are available for all ages and interests. The survey is live now and will be available until June 3rd at 4 p.m. So feel free to fill it out. An assessment of current fields, booking tools, and consultation with current user groups will also be completed. Based on this information, a plan forward for field use and maybe investment will be created for the CVRD's consideration. Turning our attention to Area A, for this last update, I guess I'll underline the perennial topic around the sewer extension south project, which the residents in Royston Union Bay are well familiar with. We know this is a project of high interest. In December 2021, the CVRD introduced the proposed option of bringing sewer service to Royston Union Bay by connecting to the Comox Valley Sewer Service. Historical decision. We had a largely positive feedback from residents, but also heard there were many questions about the path forward. Thank you to everyone who came out, and there were a lot to share their perspectives in the early stage. Since then, the CVRD has continued to analyze the proposed plans to provide more information. Royston and Union Bay residents, probably if you haven't gotten it in your mailbox, it may be sitting there with more information about what has been discussed and reviewed so far this year. A key update that is included in the letter is the notice that the CVRD is not working towards a referendum on this project, which we thought we would do for in line with the municipal election, but we just don't have quite our materials fully ready for that. Sorry, I just lost my page, coming back. So the project team is in discussion with the province of BC about alternatives to public engagement and approval for this project, and staff will be bringing forward a strategy to be considered by the Electoral Area Services Committee on June 13th. Staff has also been directed to review regulatory changes that will ensure on-site septics in the area are properly maintained, and to investigate the option of restricting secondary dwelling units until appropriate sewer services are provided. I'd like to say we receive a letter from Island Health and the province, and probably a lot of people have heard about the latest norovirus outbreak in Bainstown, which I think got 500 people sick. So at some point, I think we'll need to find some good solutions that are permanent. This is a obviously this whole project is a multifaceted one that we are working at with the Comox Valley Sewage Commission, the Comox First Nation, and Union Bay Estates. So it's very much to date a partnership approach in trying to finance and get off the ground this huge project. It requires a lot of technical analysis, and we have more engineering work to do. We'll keep posting information to the project webpage as we move forward, and residents can expect to hear more from us in the next few months. For the islands, we had a pretty scary and consequential thing that happened this year in regards to the Hornby Island Residents and Ratepayers Association. So earlier this year, HIRA, which provides many public services through contract with CVRD, they went to renew their liability insurance, and that required a change in service delivery methods for the parks and trails. Thankfully, HIRA and the CVRD were able to make a new plan in very short order, ensuring that services continued without disruption. HIRA has been insured at somewhat at the last minute to manage waste for the short term, while the CVRD works collaboratively to seek out long-term insurance coverage. However, parks and trails are now being managed and maintained directly by the CVRD on Hornby. Use of these amenities does not change, and the CVRD has been involved with great expertise in managing parks elsewhere, as you all know. So enjoy as you always did, and we'll keep the community informed about any new information as it becomes available. Thank you to everyone. I'll be happy to answer any question on these topics or any other topics you have in the next portion of our session, and I'll pass it back to Colleen. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, directors, for those updates and for all that helpful information. I'm just going to post a screen in a moment that has some of the URLs that were referenced in the updates from the directors. But before I kind of switch over to that screen, I just want to remind everybody we'll collect questions through the chat window. So in the bottom of your Zoom screen, you'll see the little dialog box with chat underneath it. If you open that up, a fairly plain white screen opens up and you can type in a question there that we will be able to put forward to the directors. I'm going to start with a question that came in by email. Oh, and I'm seeing it also being raised in the Q&A. So Director Grieve, this one is going to go to you. The question is if you can explain a little bit more about why why it's been decided to withhold a decision on accepting the withdrawal of the Saratoga rezoning application.
Well, thank you very much. It was basically to give more time for legal advice as to what responsibilities are with the developer and the CVRD. I don't know if Alana wants to add much more to that, but it will be coming back, and we'll get a legal opinion. I want to also say that I'll wait for the next question because I think I know what's coming next. But when we're talking about the racetrack itself, as you probably know by now, the operator has withdrawn his request for rezoning. And what you have to realize is that it's things like rezoning and subdivision approval that give local government the opportunity to ask for concessions and community amenities. The owner offered a memorandum of understanding that included limited hours of operations, including race-free most Sundays, all Mondays and Tuesdays, 9:30 cutoff on race nights, etc. He proposed sound mitigation through site modification and strict muffler regulations and things like that. Unfortunately, due to the effect of negative social media on his family, he's decided to withdraw his rezoning request. This, in effect, has reverted the business back to a legal non-conforming use and has taken away the CVRD's opportunities to negotiate change, the changes that were on the table during the legislative process. We are now looking forward to amending our noise bylaws to possibly include racetracks, but this will be complicated and take time. So as all processes move very slowly, it's moving forward, and we should have some resolution in the months to come.
Thank you.
Alana, want to add anything to that? I think that's where we're at right now.
I think Director Grieve, I think you did a great job. Sorry, just having difficulty with my video.
That's okay.
Thank
Hear
you.
you
Nothing
great, so
further.
thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Director Grieve, just another question that came in kind of related to that as well. Where or when might there be a public consultation process related to this issue?
Well, there's a possibility that the proponent may bring back a request for maybe an amended campground rezoning. At that point, it would go through all the legislative process regarding rezoning, which would also include a public hearing process.
I hope that covers the question that was posted in the chat, but if there is some further detail that you would like addressed, please feel free to share it in there. And if there are other people who have questions they want to bring forward to the directors, please feel free to do so now. We do have another question that had come in by email beforehand for you, Director Grieve, and it's about when draft Saratoga Miracle Beach local area plan might be expected to be developed or completed.
Well, as I explained before in my preamble, that we are conducting a lot of the preliminary reports leading up to a point where we could bring in an LAP process. We still have the Saratoga drainage plan on the books that needs to be completed. We did finish the coastal floodplain mapping process, so we're halfway there now, if not more. And there's some issues around water supply that we're working to rectify, as you probably know, and there should be some good news coming forward on that imminently. So there's a few loose ends that we have to tie up before we can dig into a local area plan, and not least of which, of course, will be the regional growth strategy proposed scoping review that's scheduled later this year.
Perfect. Okay, we just had another question come in on chat. I'm going to pass this along to you, Director Hamir. Can you give an update about garbage and recycling pickup services for electoral area B?
Sure. And my answer will cover all the other electoral areas. Since, as you know, we did try and go through an alternative approval process to fast track some of this work to allow us to have curbside recycling and garbage pickup, but unfortunately that AAP was unsuccessful. So what the other regional directors and I have decided is to move this further towards the solid waste master plan. So, in order for any type of new service to move forward, we either have to go through an electoral process like what we tried, or we also have an option, and maybe Mark can chime in on this, of using a solid waste master plan as our method of gaining some electoral input into this. And so that's going to take a little bit longer, but we feel that that will be a really robust way. It will allow us to have a number of public input methods and get sort of some electoral approval and maybe a deeper understanding of costs and areas through that process. Did I cover that right, Mark?
Yes, yeah, I think that was excellent. That process will, we're planning to kick that process off after the election with a new solid waste board. And as Director Hamir indicated, the solid waste management plan update would include an extensive review of roadside collection in rural areas.
I hope that answers the question. It's not going to be soon, but it's coming, we hope.
Thank you. I had a couple of questions come in to me directly to be presented to you guys about, and these are focused on the conveyance, the Comox Valley Sewer Conveyance Project. So one of the questions, I'll pass it to you first, Director Hamir, is what's the status of the investigation on the crossing of the new sewer force main through Lazo Marsh?
I'm not sure if we have any new information on that. And I don't know if Mark or I don't know if Chris is on or someone can answer that. Specifically to the Lazo Marsh, my understanding is that we're not tunneling there, that it's cut and covered. I don't know if staff can give an update on that.
Yes, thank you. So yeah, we are still working with the province, and we have submitted an application for a permit to allow us to open cut through the marsh in an appropriate manner at an appropriate time when levels are low. So we're working through that process, and yeah, there's really not that much more to report than that.
Mark, maybe can you give an idea to the folks on the line, maybe some of the benefits? I understood that they're like through that process, we may be able to enhance the marsh in some way.
Yeah, there's so some of the discussions that we're having are, the province is wondering, are there opportunities to add land to the marsh or to the park area that surrounds the marsh? So that's one item that we're discussing. Another is that there is a program of removing invasive species and from time to time. So is that an area that we could partner with the province on and use some of the project resources to help with some of that work? So we're trying to create some benefits and at the same time install this important pipeline through that area.
Mark, maybe you can stay on the line just because there's another related question that's come up, and this is less about the electoral area specifically, but still on the conveyance project topic. So the question is, what is the status of negotiations with the town of Comox about sewage conveyance moving through the town?
Yeah, thank you. So yeah, we're making good progress with the town of Comox. The point that we're at now is we've done some fairly detailed engineering work to understand exactly how the new pipe will be routed through the town, so under their streets, ensuring that it doesn't impact any of their infrastructure. So quite a bit of detailed work on whether the pipe is above or below or through their infrastructure, and all of the work that's required to thread things through and get around. And then above the ground, we're working closely with the town to understand, does the road get put back in the same way that it was before the project, or is there some other standard of repair that's going to be implemented? So we're working through all that closely with the town, negotiating carefully with them, and keeping the Sewage Commission apprised of that process. So it's going well, but it will still take a few more months to complete.
Great, thank you. That's it for that topic. So I'm going to actually go back to Director Grieve with a question that kind of brings together the earlier question about the local area plan for the Saratoga Miracle Beach area, and then the questions about the Saratoga Speedway rezoning. So the question is why the studies that we mentioned are delaying the progress of a local area plan when they don't appear to have any impact on the Saratoga Speedway zoning application.
Well, I don't understand. We're talking about two different things here. I think if we're talking about the local area plan, then we need all the material we can get to make good decisions. And as I say, we're still being held up on a few of the background information, mainly the Saratoga master flood map, flood mitigation, or whatever that particular study is called. Yeah, the Speedway is, as I say, it's they withdrawn their application, so it's there's not going to be a campsite there anytime soon. There may possibly be an appetite to bring it back in a modified or smaller version of it or something like that, but it would have to go through the same rigmarole they went through before, which is pretty standard. Anybody who's built a chicken coop in the regional districts knows it's not a slam dunk to do anything. So.
Okay, thank you. So that brings us to the end of the questions that are in the chat and the questions that have been emailed in advance. I have one kind of general question, since I have a minute with you directors, and maybe that kind of gives everybody an opportunity to think and post any other questions that they have for you guys before we part ways. So we'll start with you, Director Arbour, because you've had a bit of a rest. My question for you is just, are there any kind of upcoming summer programs or events or initiatives that you wanted to highlight that are going to be happening this year in your area?
I'm not sure if you mean from a rec perspective or just from a general initiatives perspective.
It can be a general initiatives perspective, yeah.
Sounds good. Yeah, I mean, there's what's still a bit on the books for us outside the community sewage, we still have the septic regulations to look at. I think we'll do a little bit of that before the end of the term. We have, I don't know, there's a lot of little partnerships with nonprofits that keep going, and actually just the last couple of days, I've been tracking the issue of the covered space on Denman Island, and a lot of community discussion around it. CVRD was engaged in the discussion a year ago, but I think it's poking its heads up as people are trying to figure out the future for that. Hornby and Denman are facing a really difficult potential summer. So I went to Victoria and met with a couple of ministers in regards to BC ferries. It looks like we might be absolutely underserved this summer. I'm talking about, we have a boat that's been weight restricted, and this could lead to 7 or 8 sailings weights. Let me repeat, 7 or 8 sailings weight. So there's a bit of advocacy. To be honest, that's not in the mandate of the CVRD to work on things like that, but you have to be responsive to emerging issues that affect our entire community. So I've spent a bit of time on that issue. The Bain Sound Ecosystem Forum is meeting next month. That's a multi-stakeholder stakeholder group that it's been established 4 years ago, and we have so many agencies working together for the future health of Bainstown and current health, actually. And it's a great group. I've been chairing it for the last couple of years. A lot of great information that it gets exchanged, and it's led to good things like on the shellfish side, next year, all gear will need to be stamped by the company of origin. Anyways, it's a group that's working on multiple fronts. So I think all these things are going to carry through to when it's the election campaign. And as Dr. Grieve and Arzina and Dr. Hamir said, we're trying to wrap up loose ends and not start too many new things for staff, realizing that the election is coming. So that's basically the mode for the next couple months.
Great. Director Hamir, I'll pass that to you next.
Yeah, I was just trying to think, what are some of the projects? I'm looking forward to seeing some progress on the food hub. That's also another project that I think the community is really wanting to see move forward. We're in desperate need of infrastructure for farmers to help us aggregate and distribute more of our product into the wider community and beyond the Comox Valley, and that type of infrastructure is missing, as well as value added. So I'm looking forward to that. And like Danielle said, yeah, kind of having some of these projects move forward and sometimes even finish up. Like I'm really looking forward to tomorrow's opening of the Merville Fire Hall, because that's been so long in coming. I mean, we were planning and talking about that just after the election, so it's nice to see that finishing. And I think more importantly, it's more those last 2 years, these Zoom calls, and I saw one of the comments, I would love these Zoom calls to kind of continue, but more so, we've kind of lost a lot of the in-person connection with the electorate. And so I'm hoping this summer, as people feel more comfortable, meeting each other outdoors in those types of areas, that we have more time to just chat and see how people are doing, because it's been a really difficult couple of years, and I just want to hear how things are going. So yeah.
Great. We've given people enough time to put in a couple of questions, but I want Director Grieve to be able to have an opportunity to throw in some final thoughts before we get back to those questions.
Well, just building on what Director Hamir has said, yeah, I attended a meeting of the Comox Valley exhibition last week, and they're going to be proceeding with the fall fair. They've unfortunately, like I've made this plea before at various meetings, that they're suffering from a lack of volunteerism. I think we see that worldwide, and certainly in the Valley. I mean, even the service clubs are struggling. They're down to a rump of what they used to be. The fair is going to proceed in a much smaller capacity, but even clubs like I've been the chair of the Canada Day committee for many years, and even like the Monarch Lions this year, they don't have the membership to do the beer garden anymore. The Kiwanis Club barely can do the pancake breakfast. We've got even the Comox Rotary does a Ducky 500, are doing a mini Ducky 500. So, times are changing, and it's difficult to make people realize that you have to get out and get involved in your community to make your community what it is. They sometimes think the government does it all. Well, we just don't. I mean, it's all the nonprofits and volunteer groups out there and service clubs that make these things happen. So my plea is to get out and get involved. It's too easy to sit behind your laptop and say this, that, and the other thing, but get off the couch and go out and volunteer for something. They say that you live longer and happier if you volunteer. So.
Okay, good call for action. Okay, so we had a couple other questions come in as we gave people space to think through what they'd heard. And one of them, I'm not sure if this is for the directors or James, maybe even for you, but the question is, will these Zoom updates continue after the municipal election in October?
Thanks, Colleen. I'd have to say that we would need to wait for the election to happen. These Zoom updates and before then the open houses that were being held, we're really at the request of the directors to engage with members of the public and share information and hear stories. So we'd want to wait until the election and work with those elected officials who come in. I take the points that were made around the in-person and getting to see people face to face, and that may be where things go. But I recognize the value of meeting on Zoom as well. I think it's a lot more accessible for a lot of people. So long-winded way of answering that we do need to wait for the election, and we may have a hybrid approach going forward.
Thank you. Hopefully that question comes in because they appreciate it. Director Hamir, I'm going to pass this question to you because agriculture and updates around that were kind of in your discussion points. So the question is the CVRD coordinating with local farmers related to the avian flu?
Yeah, great question. And thanks for asking that, because it's been such a devastating disease for our poultry sector. So I should mention first and foremost, the coordination around avian flu really sits with the Canadian Food Inspection Agency, which is federally mandated. But the CFIA is working with the Ministry of Agriculture. We are, our local agrologist, who's fantastic, Angela Boss, has been working with our new ag coordinator. So it's nice that we have Nikki in place. And Nikki is helping to amplify some of the messaging around avian flu. So short answer, yes. We're doing this not because it's our job to coordinate, but because we have some easy ways for this messaging to get out. We have 2 farmers institutes in the community that have Facebook groups, and it's easy for Nikki to post and for Angela to post that information. Moving forward, when we do have the agricultural plan done, one of the issues is I don't think the CVRD or even anyone has a list of all the farmers in the community. There's no easy way for us to get this type of information out, except for folks who are already online and through kind of word of mouth. So for now, we're using social media, but moving forward, I hope that's what one of the plan really helps us figure out how to get that messaging a little bit better.
Great. Thank you. Director Grieve, I'm going to come back to you with another question about planning in the Saratoga area. So the question follows up on a previous one and asks, the participant notes that a Saratoga beach rezoning application would have a significant impact on the settlement node, comprising a future local area plan. However, the local area plan is a planning tool with no immediate impact. That comes from the comment. The question is, would it not be prudent to have all the information from the studies that are underway now to consider before considering the Saratoga Beach rezoning application?
Saratoga Beach rezoning application. What rezoning application is that? Sorry. We already, maybe Alana can talk this. We did, as you probably know, a few years back now, we did a official community plan.
There's racetrack clarification, sorry. Saratoga Speedway.
Well, for the campground, they have pulled that application, as you probably know. But getting back to the OCP, the rural OCP, we did, maybe Lana can speak to this, because we did pull the zoning for the tourist commercial zoning back from the road, part of the climate mitigation issue around Clarkson Drive. And we gave basically the homeowners on the upland side of Clarkson the opportunity to apply for TC1 zoning as well, in recognition that the tourist areas along the beach may have to gravitate across the road. But the speedway is a different issue than any LAP. It may be part of it if it comes forward again, but right now I think it's not an issue. It has been withdrawn, and it's not the speedway. It was basically campground. Speedway was looking for primary use of the of the site, and that has also died on the vine as well.
Okay, thank you. I hope that we've addressed that question. I'm going to share what is normally kind of my wrap-up slide, partly because we have come to the end of the questions that have been posted, so we might be at wrap-up, but also because if there are any outstanding questions on that topic, or somebody who's looking for a bit more clarification on that, please feel free to email the communications email address, and we can get you connected to the people to kind of further explain or have a conversation about the specifics here. But hopefully we've been able to cover, for the most part, the topics that you were hoping to get some more information about.
Can I ask myself a couple of questions? Because I've had it way too easy today. It'll take 30 seconds. So Danielle, can you tell us about the controversial things? So, I'd like to mention not all the work is easy. It felt like there was lots of good news story today, but the ship breaking issue has been huge in Area A. It didn't come up in the questions today, but there is a town hall that the concerned citizens are organizing soon, and we are under legal action right now with the company. It's not an easy file, and our ability to communicate a lot about it is quite constrained by the fact that it is a legal matter. But just to say that we're not ignoring it at all. The second is, I'll just plug the air quality. So we are not banning wood stoves in rural areas. I think Dr. Hamir said that about 100 times. We've gotten a lot of emails about that. Finally, the air quality report was tabled last week. Those who are interested can go see the meeting. There'll probably be an article in the record next week, I'd imagine. And third, just a plug for a piece of work that we didn't talk about, but at the next CVRD board meeting, we have a huge climate agenda. This is a board that's been really active on trying to orient our policies and investment decisions to address the climate crisis we're facing. And I think the upcoming board meeting will be a lot to consider for the board on this. So I just thought I'd throw that in.
Thank you. Those are all really good updates as well. And good for you to take a turn too. Okay, so with that, we have come to the end of the questions that have been posted to the chat. So I hope that means everybody has the information that they came here looking for, and we appreciate very much your time being here today. Thank you to the directors for being here and sharing those updates, and to James for helping to guide the process, and of course to the staff team that are on the call to be available to help answer questions. And to the community more widely, thank you so much for joining us for this time. If you have any other questions, please feel free to follow up. And otherwise, please let any friends and neighbors know that we'll be posting this video to the Connect CVRD page, and they can go and take a look when they have the time to be able to get the updates firsthand as well. So with that, thank you everyone. Have a great summer, and we will hopefully see you again soon.